a Wikividi Documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Ron DeSantis. Ronald Dion DeSantis is an American politician who is a former U.S. representative for. After graduating from Yale University and Harvard Law School, DeSantis served in the Navy as an attorney and as a JAG, a Republican. He was first elected to the House of Representatives in 2012. DeSantis ran in Florida's 2016 U.S. Senate election, but ended his campaign when incumbent Senator Marco Rubio announced that he would seek re-election. DeSantis then opted to run for re-election to his U.S. House seat and was re-elected in November 2016. Described as a top Trump ally, DeSantis drew increased attention in 2017 for his frequent criticisms of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election, urging Trump to shut down or significantly limit the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. On August 28, 2018, DeSantis won the Republican primary for governor of Florida. On September 10, 2018, DeSantis resigned from his seat in the House of Representatives to focus on his gubernatorial campaign. On November 10, 2018, at noon, as required by Florida law, the first set of unofficial returns were posted with DeSantis and his opponent Andrew Gillum, the Democratic Party nominee, separated by less than 0.5% of votes counted. According to Florida state law, this requires a recount to be finished no later than November 15, 2018 at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Due to this, the result of the general election is pending. Early life and education. Ronald Dion DeSantis was born on September 14, 1978 in Jacksonville, Florida, the son of Karen and Ronald DeSantis. In 1991 he was a member of the Little League team from Dunedin National that went on from the regular season to the Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. After graduating in 1997 from Dunedin High School in Dunedin, Florida, DeSantis attended Yale University, graduating with a BA in History in 2001. He then attended Harvard Law School, receiving his JD in 2005. Military service. DeSantis received his Reserve Naval Officer's Commission and assignment to Judge Advocate General's Corps in 2004 at the U.S. Naval Reserve Center in Dallas, Texas while still a student at Harvard Law School. He completed U.S. Naval Justice School in 2005. Later that year, he received orders from Trial Service Office Command Southeast at the Naval Station Mayport, Florida, as a JAG prosecutor. In 2006, he was promoted from lieutenant junior grade to lieutenant. He worked for the Joint Task Force Guantanamo Commander, working directly with detainees at the Guantanamo Bay Joint Detention Facility. In 2007, DeSantis reported to the Naval Special Warfare Command Group in Coronado, California, where he was assigned to SEAL Team 1 and deployed to Iraq with the troop surge as the legal advisor to the SEAL commander. Special Operations Task Force West in Fallujah. He returned to the United States in April 2008, at which time he was reassigned to the Naval Region Southeast Legal Service. He was appointed by the U.S. Department of Justice to serve as a federal prosecutor at the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Middle District of Florida. DeSantis was assigned as a trial defense counsel until his honorable discharge from active duty in February 2010. He concurrently accepted a reserve commission as a lieutenant, Judge Advocate General Corps, in the U.S. Navy Reserve. He was awarded the Bronze Star Medal and the Iraq Campaign Medal. Writing. He authored a book entitled Dreams from Our Founding Fathers, First Principles in the Age of Obama, which was published in 2011. His writing has appeared in National Review, The Washington Times, The American Spectator, Human Events, and American Thinker. 2012 election. In 2012, DeSantis ran in the Republican primary for Florida's 6th congressional district. The district had previously been the 7th district, represented by 20-year Republican incumbent John Mica. However, most of Mica's territory in Orange County had been drawn into the new 7th district, the old 24th district. Mica opted to run in the reconfigured 7th, making the 6th an open seat. DeSantis won the 6-candidate Republican primary with 39% of the vote, with the runner-up, State Representative Fred Costello, obtaining 23%. In the November general election, DeSantis defeated Democrat Heather Bevin by 57.43%, with majorities in all 4 counties. Legislation. On January 29, 2014, DeSantis introduced into the House the Faithful Execution of the Law Act of 2014, a bill that would direct the United States Department of Justice to report to the United States Congress whenever any federal agency refrains from enforcing laws or regulations for any reason. In the report, the government would have to explain why it had decided not to enforce that law. DeSantis spoke in favor of the bill, arguing that President Obama has not only failed to uphold several of our nation's laws, he has vowed to continue to do so in order to enact his unpopular agenda. The American people deserve to know exactly which laws the Obama administration is refusing to enforce and why. In 2013, DeSantis signed a pledge sponsored by Americans for Prosperity promising to vote against any global warming legislation that would raise taxes. On August 24, 2017, DeSantis added a rider to the proposed fiscal 2018 spending bill package that would end funding for the 2017 special counsel investigation, or for the investigation under the order of matters occurring before June 2015, 180 days after passage of the bill. The amendment would counter a bipartisan bill authored by 2 Democratic and 2 Republican U.S. senators that was meant to limit the president's power to fire the special counsel. The DeSantis amendment would potentially cut off funding for the investigation by November 2017. It was also a response to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein's statement that the DOJ doesn't conduct fishing expeditions. DeSantis stated that the May 17, 2017 DOJ order didn't identify a crime to be investigated and practically invites a fishing expedition. He is a founding member of the Freedom Caucus, a group of congressional conservatives. 2016 U.S. Senate candidacy. On May 6, 2015, DeSantis announced that he was running for the United States Senate seat held by Marco Rubio, who initially did not file to run for re-election due to his bid for the U.S. presidency. He was endorsed by the fiscally conservative Club for Growth. DeSantis withdrew from the race following incumbent Senator Marco Rubio's announcement that he would seek re-election to the Senate, reversing his initial pledge not to run. On June 22, 2016. After dropping his U.S. Senate bid, DeSantis filed to run for re-election to his U.S. House seat. 2018 gubernatorial candidacy. In January 2018, DeSantis announced his candidacy for governor of Florida to succeed term-limited Republican incumbent Rick Scott. President Donald Trump stated in December 2017 that he would support DeSantis should he run for governor. During the Republican primary, DeSantis emphasized his support for Trump by running an ad where DeSantis taught his children how to build the wall and say, "Make America Great Again," and by dressing one of his children in a tiny red, "Make America Great Again" jumper. Asked if he could name an issue where he disagreed with Trump, DeSantis did not name a single issue. On July 30, 2018, Jonathan Martin of the New York Times wrote that the support DeSantis primary campaign had received demonstrated both Trump's king-making capacity in a Republican trending state, but also a broader nationalization of conservative politics, wherein a willingness to hurl rhetorical lightning bolts at the left, the media and special counsel Robert S. Mueller can override local credentials, local endorsements and preparedness for a state-based job. On August 28, 2018, DeSantis won the Republican primary. His Democratic opponent in the general election is Andrew Gillum. The race was widely seen as a toss-up. In September 2018, DeSantis announced State Representative Jeanette Núñez as his running mate. He resigned his seat in the U.S. House of Representatives on September 10, 2018, to focus on his gubernatorial candidacy. That same month, DeSantis was criticized for not having a fully formed policy platform for his gubernatorial campaign. He canceled a planned interview with the Tampa Bay Times to have additional time to put together a platform before an in-depth policy interview. Platform. DeSantis' gubernatorial platform includes support for legislation that would allow persons with concealed weapons permits to carry firearms openly. He also supports a law mandating the use of E-Verify by businesses, and a state-level ban on sanctuary city protections for undocumented immigrants. DeSantis has promised to stop the spread of polluted water from Lake Okeechobee. DeSantis has also expressed support for a state constitutional amendment to require a supermajority vote for any tax increases. He opposes allowing able-bodied, childless adults to receive Medicaid. DeSantis has stated that he would implement a medical marijuana program, but opposes the legalization of recreational marijuana. Controversy. On August 29, 2018, DeSantis came under criticism for comments that were allegedly racially charged. DeSantis said, "The last thing we need to do is to monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda with huge tax increases and bankrupting the state. That is not going to work. That's not going to be good for Florida." DeSantis was accused of using the verb monkey as a racist dog whistle. His opponent, Gillum, is African American. Amid the controversy over DeSantis' comments, The Washington Post and the Naples Daily News reported that DeSantis had on 4 occasions appeared at racially charged conferences at the David Horowitz Freedom Center that featured various right-wing provocateurs as speakers. DeSantis has stated that his comment had zero to do with race. Marijuana. DeSantis supports the implementation of a medical marijuana program in Florida, but opposes the legalization of recreational marijuana. He voted against the Veterans Equal Access Amendment that would give veterans access to medical marijuana if recommended by their Veterans Health Administration doctor, and if it is legal for medicinal purposes in their state of residence. Contraceptives and abortion. DeSantis opposes abortion and has denounced Planned Parenthood. DeSantis agreed with the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Burwell v. Hobby Lobby Stores Incorporated, saying, "This case does not concern the availability or legality of contraceptives, and individuals can obtain and use these as they see fit. The question is simply whether the government can force the owners of Hobby Lobby to pay for abortifacients in violation of their faith." Economy. DeSantis has said that the debate in Washington, D.C. over how to reduce the deficit should shift emphasis from tax increases to curtailing spending and triggering economic growth. He supports a "no budget no pay" policy for Congress to encourage the passage of a budget. He believes the Federal Reserve System should be audited. In the wake of the alleged IRS targeting controversy, DeSantis called for the resignation of Internal Revenue Service Commissioner John Koskinen for having failed the American people by frustrating Congress's attempts to ascertain the truth. He co-sponsored a bill to impeach Koskinen for violating the public's trust. In 2015, DeSantis was named taxpayer superhero by Citizens Against Government Waste, a conservative think tank. DeSantis supported the regulations from the Executive in Need of Scrutiny Act, which would require that regulations that have a significant economic impact be subject to a vote of Congress prior to taking effect. DeSantis introduced the Let Seniors Work Act, which would repeal the retirement earnings test and exempt senior citizens from the 12.4% Social Security payroll tax. And he co-sponsored a measure to eliminate taxes on Social Security benefits. DeSantis sponsored the Transportation Empowerment Act, which would transfer much of the responsibility for transportation projects to the individual states and sharply reduce the federal gas tax. DeSantis has opposed legislation to require online retailers to collect and pay state sales tax. He voted in favor of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. DeSantis says the bill will bring a dramatically lower tax rate and full expensing of capital investments. DeSantis also believes the act will bring more jobs to America. Education. DeSantis opposes federal education programs such as No Child Left Behind Act and Race to the Top, saying that education policy should be made at the local level. In 2016, DeSantis introduced the Higher Education Reform and Opportunity Act, which would allow states to create their own accreditation systems. In an op-ed for the National Review, DeSantis said that his legislation would give students access to federal loan money to put towards non-traditional educational opportunities, such as online learning courses, vocational schools, and apprenticeships in skilled trades. Cuba. In 2015, DeSantis introduced the Guantanamo Bay Recidivism Prevention Act, which would cut off foreign aid to countries that receive detainees if they show back up on the terrorism recidivism list. DeSantis opposed President Obama's plan to shut down the Guantanamo Bay detention camp, saying, "Bringing hardened terrorists to the U.S. homeland harms our national security." Regarding the formal restart of diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Cuba, DeSantis said, "Raising the Cuban flag in the United States is a slap in the face to those who have experienced the brutality of the Castro regime." Iran. DeSantis opposed the Iran nuclear deal framework, calling it a bad deal that will significantly degrade our national security. DeSantis said, "The Iran deal gives Ayatollah Khamenei exactly what he wants: billions of dollars in sanctions relief, validation of the Iranian nuclear program, and the ability to stymie inspections." During a line of questioning, DeSantis told Secretary of State John Kerry that the executive branch had a legal obligation to provide Congress with the details behind any side deals made between world leaders and Iran. DeSantis accused President Barack Obama of giving better treatment of Cuba's Raul Castro and Iran's Ayatollah Ali Khamenei than of Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu. Brought to you by Wikividi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?